Hi friends, welcome to another episode of Making Disciples. My name is Cris Rogers. I am your host. It is really good to be with you again for another episode. We're walking through the Sermon on the Mount because the Sermon on the Mount is Jesus' blueprint for life in the kingdom. It's his blueprint for what discipleship looks like. And the implication of all that Jesus says on the Sermon on the Mount is about how we live our lives. How are we going to live out our lives in the context of Jesus? And we're going to carry on today with Matthew 6:19 to 24, which is a whole section on treasures in heaven. And I think right in the heart of this passage is an image and a metaphor that we often pass by. We think it's about something else, and actually it doesn't make sense in the context that it's used when we think it's about something else. So I'm going to kind of clarify what Jesus means when he says this particular phrase in this passage. And it's a real simple passage. You know, he has basically three things in it that he's talking about, and it's all centered around what are we doing with the resources that we have? How do we manage them? How do we behave with them? What are we doing with others with the resources that we have? So I hope you just find this really interesting, particularly this phrase that Jesus uses. It'll give you another lens to approach this passage in, really. So just a reminder, if you are enjoying this Sermon on the Mount series, I think you really enjoy the Bible book by book. And this phrase that I'm going to be talking about today that Jesus uses, if you want to know more about it, you are going to find it in the Bible book by book. I talk about it in the book. So the Bible book by book is an awesome walkthrough of every book of the Bible, understanding culture, context, the people, the landscape, the geography, the history, but also then clearly what is it that Jesus is saying, knowing all of this stuff. So if you find this kind of historical recontextualization of the passage, like this is what it meant in the context that Jesus was using it, then you would definitely love the Bible book by book. Thank you again to those that have supported the podcast in the last 6 months using the Buy Me a Coffee. It's just really lovely when people show appreciation for the time that's taken putting into recording and producing and putting out a podcast like this. It's not a quick thing, you know, the research and the preparation for each episode on top of the recording and everything else. So really thank you, really appreciate you. If you'd like to support the podcast with Buy Us a Coffee, then there's a link in the bio. So let's jump in. Let's talk about Matthew chapter 6, 19 to 24, and it's entitled Treasures in Heaven. So why don't I read the passage to us? Sounds like a good idea, doesn't it? So treasures in heaven from Matthew 6. Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moths and vermin destroy, where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where moths and vermin do not destroy, where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be. The eye is the lamp of the body. If your eyes are healthy, your whole body will be full of light, but if your eyes are unhealthy, your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light within you is darkness, how great is that darkness? Nobody can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one or love the other, or you'll be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. So, treasures in heaven. So he starts up talking about storage. Where are you storing what you have got? Are you wisely storing up? Are you putting what you've got in a good place that's going to care for it? And then he goes on this little Miranda around eyes in the lamp of the body. If your eyes are healthy, your whole body will be healthy. So essentially, it looks like he's talking about what you look at in those verses. And then he comes back to nobody can serve two masters. You're going to hate the one and love the other. And he's talking about the God of money and the God of life. You know, him being the God of life and then the God of money. So he essentially talks about money. He then talks about eyes. And then he talks about money. So it looks like he kind of drifts in between with this whole section about your eyes. So careful how you bank or where you put your money. careful what you look at, and then be careful not to serve money. So it makes it look like he's talking about two very different things. He's talking about money, and he's talking about what you are looking at, what you are watching. And I have heard somebody take those verses 22 through to 23 and preach on them, and totally out of context. The eyes is the lamp of the body. If your eyes are healthy, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eyes are unhealthy, your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light within you is darkness, how great is the darkness? And I heard somebody preach about what you watch, what movies you watch. I heard them talking about pornography. I heard them talking about what you're reading, what you're consuming, what your eyes are taking in. I made an entire sermon over what is your eyes consuming. I would love to argue that that is a complete misunderstanding of those verses. The entire passage is actually about money. And Jesus is using a phrase that existed 2,000 years ago to explore money. And so he's talking about money three ways: storage, something about the eyes, which we'll come to, and the other about the master. So let's break it up into three sections, 1, 2, and 3. So firstly, the first thing Jesus is talking about is watching what you invest your resources into. Yes, he's talking about money, but he's talking about your treasures. So what is it you are investing your treasure in? I want to expand it to all of your resources. So the resources of your money, your possessions, your time, your energy. And he uses a story here, doesn't he? He tells us, be careful about where you're putting your stuff, because there are some things that are going to come and prowl on it, destroy it. So you've got moths, which are going to eat the cloths that you have, vermin that's going to destroy it by eating, pooping on it, weeing on it, all that stuff. And then you've got the stealing, those that come to take and steal. Actually, the stealers, it's all treasures, isn't it? It's the money, it's the gold, it's the jewels, it's everything that you might be storing in your home. Because they didn't have a banking system. There was no way of investing your money into cryptocurrency, into your bank or anything like that. So watch what you invest into. The question is, are you investing what you have got into something that will last? Because some things will consume, they'll eat it, they'll destroy it. Some things will steal it and take it away from you. Are you actually investing what you've got into something that will last forever? So we can store up our treasures here on earth, where we simply can't keep hold of it. It's going to be taken from us. All the resources that we have ultimately do not belong to us, and one day will be gone. When we die, we don't take them to heaven. So Jesus' challenge is where are you putting your resources? Are you putting them into things of earth, where they're going to be destroyed? Or are you storing them up, this treasure, in heaven, where it will hold some eternal value and eternal worth? So in other words, there are poor investments. There's poor places to invest. Ultimately, anything on earth will be a poor investment, because ultimately you will die and then you'll no longer have your hands on it. So make sure you're investing into kingdom things, to things that will bear fruit for the kingdom. So, poor investments, cryptocurrency, scams, make sure you are wisely investing what you have and using it for the kingdom. That's what essentially Jesus is challenging us to. So I'd love to just ask you, how do you invest your resources? Do you even invest your resources? Or when it goes in your pocket, is it burning a hole and you have to spend it really quick? I've got friends who, they get paid and within days they've gone out and blown it, and then don't have enough then to last the rest of the month. They're not being wise with the resources that they have, and they lose them. So watch what you invest your money into. Make sure you're putting your resources, your time, your energy into things that are going to bear fruit for the kingdom of God. So watch what you invest into. And then Jesus pivots, and now he says, the eye is the lamp of the body. So what's he talking about here? And to understand what Jesus is saying, we need to understand trade 2,000 years ago. And I want you to imagine you're a market stall holder. Some market stall holders were described as having good eyes, and others were described as having squinty eyes or bad eyes. So having a good eye, or as a trader being described as somebody having a good eye, meant that you were having a truthful attitude towards trade. You were not ripping people off. So what would happen is, say you were selling wheat, you would have your scales, and your scales would be even. You would put the wheat on one side, you'd measure out the weight, and then people would pay a fair price on that wheat that they were after, because you'd measured it out. And as somebody with a good eye, it meant that you were really good at making sure it was even and equal, that people were not going to get ripped off. So having a good eye meant that you were truthful about your trading, and you were not ripping people off, and the people were going to pay a fair price for what they were purchasing from you. So having a poor eye or a bad eye, or the phrase I heard when I was in Israel was having a squinty eye, having eyes that are half open. Having a poor eye was about being greedy and making bad deals. So if you were a bad trader, you would rig your scales so they were weighted in your favor. You would make sure that they were slightly loose and were not going to give a good, fair measurement when you weighed things out. So what you were looking to do, you were looking to have less wheat on there for the weight, so you get more money for selling less product. So you're having a bad eye. So what could happen is you could measure it out, and you could look at it and you could see it's not even. That actually it needed more wheat on there to measure this out. So you had a bad eye, you would overlook that. Oh, I didn't see that. You know, you'd act so quickly that the person you were trading with couldn't see the fact that you had given them a bad deal. So it's often used with regard to trading and scales. A good eye was able to see the correct measurements, and if your eye is able to give a good deal, then you obviously had a good heart. So if you were a tradesman and you gave a good deal, you were honest tradesman giving honest prices for your honest product, then you were seen as having somebody, your eye showed people what was really going on in your heart. So if you gave a good price, that you're an honest tradesman, it was saying there was something good about your heart. But if you had a squinty eye or a dark black eye, you were basically ripping people off, and that was saying something about your heart and your greed. So let's just read it again. The eye is the lamp of the body. If your eyes are healthy, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eyes are unhealthy, your whole body will be full of darkness. In other words, what you're doing when you are looking at those scales, when you're making that judgment to rip somebody off or not, it's actually communicating what's going on inside. And if you're ripping people off, then you have darkness. And if you are being a good tradesman, then your heart was full of light. So your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light within you is darkness, how great is that darkness? So what he's actually doing, without us realizing it here, Jesus is making a comment about trade. So he's talking about investment of our money. Now he's talking about trade. If you're a trader, if you are somebody that sells something, be somebody who has good eyes, who's able to measure and to make good adjustments to the trade so that you were not ripping somebody off, that the trade was good and balanced and healthy, because that dictates something of what's going on in your heart. So in the first one, it's about watching what you invest into. Is it heaven, or is it yourself? Is it things of this earth? It's revealing something of the heart. Are you generously investing into the kingdom, or are you investing into things of this earth, things that are going to benefit you? Then he's talking about trade. Are you going to be a good tradesman, somebody who gives people a good deal, or are you going to rip people off? And that says something about your heart. And he says something about you and greed, but it also says something about you and injustice. So watch how you trade. And then finally he says you can't serve two masters. We can try, but ultimately the two pull us in opposite directions. So master number one is Jesus. Jesus, who invites us to invest into the kingdom of God. Jesus, who is investing us to invest into his work, his way of thinking, being somebody of justice and compassion and mercy, investing into his work, being fruitful not just in this life but in the future life, being somebody who wants to invest into future ministry, Are you investing what you have into ministries that will go beyond you in your life? So you can serve Jesus in that kind of work, or you can serve the master of money and having a heart that's bent towards this idol of money, this idol that says, I need more, I need to strive for more, I need to be securer with my money, I've got to put more in the bank, and I've got to make sure that I have enough. So money is towards greed, and God is towards generosity. That's what Jesus is essentially saying. So we can't serve two masters. I love the story of the wealthy farmer who has so much wheat he's building bigger barns to store up what he has on earth. So he builds bigger and bigger barns, or bigger and bigger storehouses, till eventually one night he dies and he loses everything. He can't take it with him, so it's all left to rot away. What are you investing into? Are you investing into something that will continue beyond your life? Are you investing into something that you will leave behind and then you can't do anything with it? What are you investing into? Are you building bigger barns, or are you investing into things that will have eternal consequences? So, one of the things I would say is, the money that you have, are you taking a portion of that and investing it into God's work? Or are you investing it into your own security, your own status as a human being? Are you investing it into your own property? The other thing is that, are you using your money to invest into the future ministries? Are you using your money to make sure that the church continues into the future? Are you investing your money into ministries that will do youth work and pursue justice for people's lives? Are you investing into other things that will benefit others and not benefiting yourself? Now, I find it really interesting that people don't care about cancer until they catch cancer, or they get cancer, or they develop cancer, and suddenly they want to do everything they can to raise money and awareness for cancer. It's the same with Alzheimer's. People don't care until they have it or a family member has it, then they want to champion those things. We should care about these things, not when we have them, but before we even have them. Investing into the fruitfulness of other things going forwards, the things that don't even benefit you. So the challenge here is, what are you serving? Are you serving yourself with your money? Or are you serving God and His kingdom with your money? Are you using the resources that you have, your time, your money, your energy, your giftings? Are you using all of these to serve the master, which is God? Or are you using to serve the master of self? So, treasures on earth. So Jesus talks about watching what you invest into. He talks about watching how you trade and be somebody who acts justly and uses it reveals by their actions what's really going on in their heart, and having a heart full of light rather than a heart full of darkness. Your trade is what he's talking about. And then this serving of two masters. So the challenge for us, friends, is this: what are you doing with the resources that you have? And as a disciple of Jesus, we're told not to put it into the things that will be destroyed. Don't invest it into the things that will no longer be here and could easily be taken. Make sure that you are somebody who is seeking justice and is a good trader, is a good person who makes wise, godly choices when engaging with others over trade. And be aware, what master are you serving? Are you serving God? Are you serving someone else? Looking at how you spend your money. And a friend of mine a few years ago got a highlighter pen, and they took their bank statement, or it was just a random bank statement, and they chose to highlight everything that was for them and everything that was for God. And they went through and simply highlighted the two different colours just so they could see on their bank statement how many things were for them and how many things was for somebody else. And I thought it was really interesting. Could try doing it, looking at how you use your resources. And often we feel guilty, and this isn't about guilt at all. This is simply about becoming people who invest into Jesus's work rather than investing into things that will not make it, that are going to be stolen, are going to be destroyed, and are going to be taken away. So asking yourself that question: what is it that I'm actually in reality doing with the resources that I have? So friends, there you go. Treasures in heaven. Watch what you invest into. Watch how you trade. And watch which God or which master you serve. Friends, until next time, grace and peace. Have a blessed week, and we'll catch up soon.